Տարերը Երևանի։ Բայց մենք ամասին ոնց որ չենք դες մեծ տարերով գրում, որովհետև նույն ձևի քեզ չի դա գրումով անվագում երաժշտությունը, չէ՞, այդ կամ լավա կամ տա։ Նույնն էլ է, այսինքն այդ վերաբերմունքը ու հետո այդ տղան հետ գալով առաջ գնալով արդեն մենակ ինքը քանի անգամ եմ տեսել, որ ուղղակի այսպես մանկապարտեզի նման ձեռը բռնած իր անգերներին բերելա, բա ապե արի ինձ մի հատ, այսինքն այս լավ խոսակցություն է, մենք չենք փորձում մի ուղղության մասին, մենակ երաժշտության կամ մենակ վիզուալի, մենք փորձում ենք մարդու այդ 5 զգայարանների ընդհանուր գիտակցությանը բերենք, որտեղ որ ինչ ես դու խմում, նույնքան կարևոր է, ինչքան ինչ ես դու լսում ու ինչ ես դու նայում։ Հենց որ այդ ես ուզում եմ որ թե մենք մանգանք ձևերը այլ ենք, ձևերը մանգանք, որ այդ հետո ինքն իրան արդյունքի մեզ, որ այդ դառնա մի հատ համակարգ, որ այդ նույնիսկ չքննարկվի։ Այսինքն այդ է իմ ուզած կետը։ Երբ որ մենք հասնենք այդ կետին, այդտեղից հետո արդեն ինչ ուզել կարելի է անել, որովհետև այդտեղ արդեն իսկականից մարդուն չի հետաքրքրելու փողը, ինքը ուղղակի ուզելու է այդտեղ ներկա կատարի։ Չէ, հա, չեք ուզում գնա կոֆե խմելու։ Դե վերջ, մնացածը ինձ թվում է ես դրա համար եմ ասում, ցանկացած հարցի ցանկացած ժամանակ կպատասխանեմ։
Շնորհակալություն Վահան Ստեփանյանին։ Իսկ հիմա սիրով ուզում եմ հրավիրել մեր հաջորդ բանախոսին։ Puzl-ի համահիմնադիր եւ տնօրեն Bartelsian թեման՝ ու մտածեք չափազանց փոքր, արհեստական բանականության աճող ուժը։
մի քիչ կսպասենք, հա, մի 3-4 րոպե, մինչև 10։ Բայց մինչև սպասում ենք, ով է այստեղ AI հետ շփվում։ Շատ լավ, okay։ Ով է որ AI հետ շփվում, բան հենდը հո։ Ով AI հետ շփվում։ Okay, ով AI հետ շփվում։ Okay։ Եվ ով startup-ի մեջ է։ Ով բանը ներքին գործի համար, օրինակի կապակցությունի համար աշում։ Okay, okay, շատ լավ, love mix. Cool. Sweet. Կներեք, բայց ես անգլերենով կհոսեմ, որտեվ ես մի քիչ բարդ եմ, հայրենը 21 տարի հետո այնքան լավ չի, որ կարող եմ այս թեմատիկով խոսել, բայց ոչինչ։ Հույս ունեմ, որ կհասկանաք։ Is everybody here Armenian? I know we've got a Georgian in the back. Woohoo! Georgia. Woohoo! Anybody from anywhere else? No? Cool. Anybody from Yerevan? Anybody from outside of Yerevan? From where? Okay, if you're not from Yerevan, where are you from? Shirak, Aprek. And? Kerakunik. Where? Kavash. Hima Kavaritik. Hence him apum Kavarum. Շատ լավ, շատ եմ սիրում Կավար։ Արցախցիներ ունեք, այստեղ։ Այո, բրավո։ Two minutes. how many people think, other than the location, this wood center is just awesome? Like, I'm so proud that finally we have buildings like this in Armenia. Che? Like, it's really cool. And my test of a good building is to go to the bathroom. Go to the bathroom. It's like really well in bathrooms. It's like funky bathrooms. So super test of is it cool or not, and it passes the cool test. For our Georgian friends, Yerevan hasn't quite caught up yet with Georgia's cool, but we're on our way. We're on our way. Let's get you know. We've got better food. How many people have been to Tbilisi? How many people think that Georgian food in Armenia is better than Georgian food in... It's true, it's true. Okay, we're going to jump in. If you're just coming in, welcome. Welcome. I'm Matt Bartelsian. So I want to talk to you about not thinking too small. And I think we think, oh, AI, but I think way too many people are thinking way too small about AI. And I want to talk through that because if you are involved in AI in any way, or if you're considering being involved in AI in any way, you must think bigger. So I'm Matt Bartels. Actually, I'm not Matt Bartels. I used to be Matt Bartels. And then I became Matt Bartelsian. It's a kind of a cool story. So I used to live in Poland. I'm an American. I'm from Minneapolis. I've lived all over the world, worked all over the world. My first job out of university was in Warsaw, and then I moved to New York, Sydney, Singapore, Shanghai, and Hong Kong before coming to Armenia. I met an Armenian woman, my very first Armenian woman, my only Armenian woman, in Poland. And if you are, how many single guys do we have here? Single men? Wow, not very many. Okay. Well, if you are a single guy, if you want to get an Armenian woman, there are two questions. You're Armenian, right? Yeah, okay. But you can ask these questions of an Armenian woman, and she would go like, wow, you're amazing. So the very first question you want to ask an Armenian woman, if you want to woo her, is Armenia, where in South America is Armenia? And I really asked that question. This like beautiful, big-eyed, great Armenian woman shows up at my church one day, and I'm like, whoa. And I said, oh, where in South America? She said, no, it's Eastern Europe. And in her head, she was thinking, why are Americans here? But I wanted to just impress her with more brilliance, right? She was Hayastani, but she had studied in Lebanon. She was now in grad school in Poland, and so she just come from the beach in Lebanon. So she said, oh, no, Armenia is Eastern Europe, and she was really dark-skinned, dark-eyed, and dark-haired, and so I doubled down on my brilliance. So, are you a gypsy? And somehow this woman married me, and 26 years later, if you are a single guy and you need some help, to ask the is guaranteed, win her over. And I became an ABC. I'm Armenian by choice, so I changed my last name. If I were Jewish, any Jewish people here? Jewish people? People, if you're Jewish and your last name is Goldberg, everybody knows you're Jewish, right? And if you're Jewish and your last name is Johnson, nobody knows you're Jewish. You might know you're Jewish, but nobody would know you're Jewish. Like Bartels, nobody was going to know that my kids were Jewish. So we changed our name to Bartelsian. And now people go, what the heck is Bartelsian? And I said, well, it's kind of Armenian. And the honest reason why I'm in Armenia is Jesus. It's a much longer story, but my wife and I pastor a church, among other things. We pastor something called the International Church. So if you're an English language speaker, I'm in Iraqi as Mot. But the cool thing about Jesus is that we couldn't have kids. We couldn't have kids. And one day we were in London at a church in London, and some guy was speaking, and at the end of this talk, he said, hey, I really feel like Jesus is saying today that there are some people who tried, haven't been able to have kids, and if that's you, we'd like to pray for you. So they prayed for us, and that night we got kids, and first kid, Daniel, who's 18 now, and we can't stop having kids. So we went from 0 fertility to too much fertility, and we're very careful now. Yeah, we have a dog named Summer. She's amazing. And the reason I'm standing here today is not to do with my kids or my wife or Jesus, but I am a strategist and I'm a treasure hunter. If it were 1849, I would have been in San Francisco or Alaska looking for gold. And in my day, I'm 54 now. I might not look like it, but I'm 54. In my day, gold was to be had in Eastern Europe, and that was Warsaw. And so I started out as a strategist on Procter & Gamble, and then Unilever, a bunch of brands, and then moved to New York City and worked with Johnson & Johnson and turned that into a 5-year run as a global strategist for Johnson & Johnson around the world. I worked particularly on feminine hygiene. So I know more about tampons than most women know about tampons. Interesting fact, true. Most women in Armenia go, oh no. But it's true. And then wound up in Australia, and in Australia took a little company that some of you might have heard of called eBay. And I took them to launch. And then I took another little company called Travelocity to launch across Asia. And it was an amazing ride. And we moved on to Shanghai and then Singapore and then Shanghai. And then God called us out of what I was doing to come to Armenia. But on the way to Armenia, we stopped in Hong Kong and spent a year working with drug addicts and gang members. And we lived in my house with 30 guys. All of the guys had killed, had raped women. All the guys had sold women. And all the guys were addicts and they were fixing their life. Jesus was fixing their life. It was really amazing. And then we came to Armenia. And I've been in Armenia for 21 years. Whew. I'm a joy. And among other things, I've worked with, I work with, well, you can't say I work with Volo. When Volo didn't exist, it existed for 9 years. Nobody had ever heard of Volo. Everybody know Volo? Know Volo? Yeah. So we took this little teeny tiny company, quite big, and it was an amazing run. And after that, worked with companies like Exponential and Zealous. And in my free time, when I have free time, I do brand strategy for Backbone. You guys know Backbone? Yeah, awesome company. I have since started a startup called Puzl, which does AI-based gross margin management for supermarkets around the world. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. I've got a second startup now called Alvolt, A-L-V-O-L-T. It's in stealth mode, but we do crazy stuff with electricity. So stay tuned. That's going to change the world. Startups don't always make money right away. So you need to make money somewhere else. I do make my money by being a brand consultant, a strategy consultant for big corporates around the world. So I get sent all over the world to consult on AI strategy, which is why I'm talking to you today. But I've done work for BlackRock and Daimler, which is the truck version of Mercedes-Benz. This little company right here, we developed a really cool anti-fraud system. This is the European leader in fire trucks. Fire trucks, really cool. And a bunch of other fun stuff. And so I want to start at the beginning around AI, because AI's got lots of buzz, and maybe many of you don't. AI is not for everyone or everything or every solution. It is not the be-all and end-all, right? There are many times when AI is the wrong solution to a problem. And generally speaking, AI is not particularly effective to process problems. If you're trying to be more efficient, maybe if you've got really complex processes, maybe. But generally, you can do it faster, cheaper, and just better with the human brain on process than with AI. It is, however, a superior tool when you have huge data that's complex, that is not built for the human mind, right? When you've got things that are just out of scope for human functioning, that is when AI really shines. Even then, way too many startups and way too many corporates are too risk averse. They take little baby steps. They think, oh, we're doing AI. And it's AI, but it's not getting you anywhere. And there are super powerful, amazing tools out there using super powerful, amazing tools to do little teeny tiny things. What a waste of time. What a waste of time. So I'm going to talk about 2 truths and 3 key points and give you 4 case studies. we're going to have some interaction, and it's going to be fun. The first truth is that there is still time. This is good news. There is still time if you are a small player with a small data set to be a disruptor. There is still time. But that window of opportunity is closing, and it is closing faster than we can even conceive, right? So I would say if you've got a great idea in a niche area, now is the time, and 2 years from now, you might not have that time. And the second truth is that if you are not structuring your startup or structuring your internal AI program now to capture the big idea, you're already too late. You must. Everybody say it with me, you must. You must have a data model that is a high capacity, high fidelity data model that is capable of going in lots of directions, even if right now you're only going in one very narrow direction. Okay? Here's the case. First case. Anybody know this company, Evonik? No, Evonik? I heard. Okay, if they sponsor some European football teams, so if you know Evonik, that's probably why. But they are a niche, they're huge. They're a niche, high-end customs chemical company. So if you want to, if you are, I don't know, Tesla, and you want to come up with a special new plastic for the inside of your car that doesn't feel like plastic but feels like true leather, for example, you could go to Evonik and say, I need the chemical formulas to come up with a custom combination of high-end chemicals that will make this special new plastic. And that's all they do. They make crazy cool custom stuff. They brought us in to consult, and they said, we are terrified of being disrupted. Who do you think they are terrified of being disrupted by? Bayer? Bayer. Somebody said Bayer. And another guess. Who might they be terrified of disrupting them? AI, Google, right? They seriously, like their head of AI strategies, terribly concerned that in 3 or 4 years, Google will understand chemical formulas and the interaction between chemical formulas, which are so incredibly complex, far better than the world's #1 custom creator of custom chemicals. That's crazy, right? But there's also big thinking. There's also massive thinking. And so key point number 1, most internal AI projects and most AI startups are just way too small. Most are solving little bitty problems that are internal problems. And while those might be useful and those might keep you keeping your job because you don't have to take a risk to solve an internal problem or a process problem, they aren't going to answer the second key point, which is understanding what you want to achieve and what you strategically should achieve or try to achieve are 2 different things. Let's get this. Understanding what you want to achieve. I want to achieve AI because my boss told me we need to be in AI, or my startup is doing AI and we need to even, maybe we're not even doing AI, but we need to put AI on the pitch deck to get the investor, right? Yes. And understanding what you want to achieve to be safe, to make a little bit of profit, to get the next step forward is very different than asking the question, what should we be trying to achieve strategically to win? Understand the difference? One is saying, let's play it safe and take a little step and tick the box, we're doing AI, or tick, we're 23% more efficient. That is fine, except if you're not asking the bigger question, you are not anticipating disruption. And I work with corporates all over the world who are not anticipating disruption. And let me give you a couple examples. Third key point. There are many ways to disrupt. But one of the best that I've found, and in fact I use in Puzl, is to create a data cooperative. If you are a small player, and let's face it, most in Armenia are going to be small players today, you can disrupt the big players by getting out ahead of everyone on a big strategic idea and doing so with a data cooperative. You don't have to have the data today, but you can build it if you make it worth everybody joining you on that data. So let's look at one example. First one is Daimler. So Daimler came to us and said, hey, we went to Daimler and said, we're amazing. We're Armenian. We're like better than everybody. Like, make high. They said, oh, yeah. Can you solve? We've got a $40 million fraud problem. Basically, there's so much fraud in our system. We don't know how to catch it because the fraud happens at the dealer levels. All over America, there are dealers, and the dealers are cheating us. Hi, Elene. But it's a joke. Schustrian. But these dealers would be sending in, for example, a warranty claim on a part that wasn't actually the right part, and it might have even been a part to a truck that wasn't a Daimler truck. But they were sending in these parts to Daimler. And Daimler said, okay, if you guys really are, we haven't even heard of Albanians. I thought we were Albanians. They didn't know we were Armenians. We haven't even heard of Armenia, but we really are the best. Then we want you to solve this $40 million problem for us. But we can only give you 30 images to create an engine that would then be used to address fraud. And so we did what Armenians do, and we innovated, and we came up with a synthetic database. And with that synthetic database, we solved their $40 million problem. And they said, wow, that's amazing. We have a list of 290 other internal problems we'd like to solve with AI. And we said, that's a bad idea. And they're like, they're ready to give us lots of business. And we said, that's a bad idea. I said, why? And they said, well, what are these problems doing? They said, mostly these are problems that are going to help us sell more. I said, okay, you're trying to sell more, great. But you already have a 2.5-year backlog in your factory because you're 40% of the market. And you're not going to build another factory. So why are you trying to sell more if you already have a 2.5-year backlog? And then we said, you're not thinking big enough. You've got 40% of the market. That means that 40% of the trucks in America have your data box inside them, and you're getting all of their data from everybody. So if you've got that data what problem could you solve that would help you disrupt everybody? Any ideas? What if you've got 40% of the data, you know everything about every truck that goes everywhere, and you don't want to solve internal problems, but you want to expand your market? What problem could Daimler solve? Logistics, okay. What else? Reselling their product, okay. One other choice. What else could you do? Increase efficiency. What they decided to do with us is work with this company called BlackRock. BlackRock is the world's biggest investment bank. And they had us build an engine, a recommendation engine, that took all of this data and recommended where the new charging station should be all across America. And together with BlackRock, they're investing $300 billion in new charging stations that come with hotels and restaurants, cafes, and supermarkets, etc., all based on a recommendation engine that was built in Armenia. Because we said, take your data and solve a bigger problem. They took this collectivized data and said, we know better than anybody how trucks behave today. And if we overlay where trucks, the technical parameters of how trucks will behave tomorrow, we can map out where trucks need to have charging stations. And that's what they've done. The next one is, I can't say the name of the company, but it is the #1 leader in global supply chain and for electronics. So if you are Armenian company X and you're building product Y, you can go to this company and you can say, build me a supply chain that's 3 layers deep. Let's just say you've got 3 components in your work. They will say, okay, motherboards, you need a motherboard, you need a memory chip, and you need a battery. For each of those products, they will source a supply chain that's 3 layers deep, meaning that they can find 3 different motherboards from 3 different locations, so that if there's a miners' strike in Mozambique and they stop producing zinc, and this motherboard manufacturer is dependent upon zinc from a mine in Mozambique, this company will manage that whole thing for you so that it's seamless. You don't lose any time in your supply chain. Really, really, really cool stuff. These guys, as the market leader, have more than anybody. They've got the types of data that everybody would kill for. And they were busy trying to solve internal problems. They wanted to be more efficient in the factory. They wanted to ship things faster from customer to customer. They were solving efficiency problems. And we said, stop solving efficiency problems. They paid us a lot of money to come in and consult. And what is the problem that you could solve that would help you win not just global logistics supply chain market today, but win it tomorrow? Any ideas? Prediction. Prediction is a huge part of it. Yep. But it's multi-types of prediction. Oh, so interesting. So interesting. The solution we're going to show you in just a second has all of their competitors using this platform. Like that's got so much data and so much leverage that is worth it for your competitors to use a platform that is produced and owned by you, right? That's pretty cool. What else? Yes. Okay. All of you are right in little pieces. Basically, what they want to do is create Amazon for global supply chain. And what does that mean? What is Amazon today? Because Amazon is so much bigger than we think it is, right? Amazon is logistics. Amazon is a marketplace. Amazon is a financing arm. And it's a place where some of the products come from Amazon. And you can be a private seller like on eBay. And you can sell on Amazon as well. So they are going to be creating, using their understand the predictive side of the whole supply chain better than anybody else, a marketplace that is totally AI driven. So we talked about this multi-layer approach, a 3-layer deep. With this marketplace, you can go 15 layers deep. And maybe the product doesn't get sold by this company, maybe it gets sold by the competitor, but it gets sold by the competitor on their marketplace. And so instead of making money off of just their transactions, they will make money off of every single transaction that happens in the global supply chain in about 2 or 3 years. That is next level, massive thinking about how can we structure, we've got the data, how can we structure ourselves to solve the biggest problems in the market, right? Last one, this is my startup, Puzl. So we do, well, here's the problem in grocery. Supermarkets around the world, but particularly in the US, exist 1.5% profit margin. Think about that, right? Super risk business, and they exist at 1.5% profit margin. That's not good or bad, that just is. If you're crazy enough to go to the supermarket business and you're not named Lafik, then you exist on 1.5% profit margin. But what's bad is that there is variability in that profit margin every week of plus or minus 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, maybe 5%. So you are playing in a 1.5% game where you could lose up to 5%. Here's the killer. Nobody sees their margins until 6 weeks after the fact. So you're running in a 1.5% business, you could be losing 5%, and it's totally possible that if I own a chain of supermarkets, my CFO could come to me and say, oh, Matt, we lost 5% 6 weeks ago. And now you're screwed because you have no idea what happened 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1 week ago. And so what everybody does, unless your name is Carrefour or Walmart, really big players, what everybody does is they pad their pricing. And Walmart doesn't have to pad its pricing, and Carrefour doesn't have to pad its pricing. So they are very competitive, and everybody else is not. And slowly, there's a reason why everybody moves to Walmart or everybody moves to Carrefour. So what we do, entirely Armenian product, we use AI to predict where supermarket margins will be 6 weeks ahead of time. And then we give folks a bunch of crazy cool tools to use that information to be more profitable. People love it, and their business grows, and it's really exciting. And yet, all of that is just smoke and mirrors, because we are trying to do something much, much bigger. Any idea what the real problem is that we're trying to solve? Waste management? Okay, that's interesting. Very good. What? Lead identification? That's a subset of a cool, like it, good thinking. What else? Already been solved, but cool problem? Absolutely. One more guess. Nobody's going to get it. It's really cool. It's really huge. Okay, get this. Get this. We only, in America, there are 38,000 supermarkets. Of those, 21,000 are what are called independent, which means they can have one store, they can have 400 or 500 stores, but they're not Walmart, right? Walmart has 5,600 stores. We only work with independents. We would never, ever work with Walmart. Is we aggregate quietly. We don't even advertise this. If you go to our website, it's not on the website. We aggregate everybody's data into a data cooperative, anonymize it so nobody sees each other's data. And then, as we get to, right now we're just about to hit the 400 something stores. But once we get to about 1,000, 1,500 stores, something really interesting happens. One, we can give them better AI. So the type of AI we give right now, we are excellent at. Predicting profitability, we're excellent at. But there's others of AI that require bigger data sets. And Walmart has that. Walmart has, in fact, the biggest commercial data set in the whole industrial world. It's amazing. 5,600 stores. But once we get to 3,000 stores, we will be as big, we'll have as many customers in America as the largest wholesaler. And in American supermarkets, if you walk into an American supermarket, everything that you see on shelf has already been purchased by the supermarket itself. And so it's capital rotting on a shelf waiting to get sold, right? Once we hit 3,000 stores, then we want to do two things. One, we want to negotiate with vendors and become a virtual wholesaler. And that's interesting because if the supermarket market in the US is backwards, the wholesale market in the US is terribly backwards. And so they're not very aggressive. They're not good at negotiating. We will be excellent at negotiating because we've got better data, right? And so we will save customers. So if you make it 1.5% today, with our negotiations, you'll make 3.5%. That's pretty good. But check this out. What we really want to do is say, because you have trusted us with your data, we know how, if things cost A, and the price is 1, 2, or 3, we know how. So you don't have to buy anything from the wholesaler from us. We will finance the entirety of your business, de-risk your whole business, and you only have to pay us when it sells. Take a little bit off the top. Any idea how big just the supermarket market is in the US? Any idea? Billions? Most trillions, not quite trillions, but it's 254 billion. And what we want to do is be this little teeny tiny AI company that Walmart says, oh, isn't that cute? Isn't that nice? AI unen in Schlager. But they won't see, they won't know when we get to 3,000 people or 3,000 customers. And once we get to 3,000 stores, we will flick a switch and turn on a trade financing system that will get us to all of the remainder of stores. Because why wouldn't you work with a company that will de-risk your whole business, right? And so do you see the difference? The difference is we started as this profit management system, but we were getting much more data than we need for the profit management system. And we have built a data model that is super crazy flexible. So that when the day comes and we want to do other stuff, we can surprise the whole market by going off in directions that no one expects. That's my challenge to you. My challenge to you is, as you are high, except for our known two Georgian friends who we love. Welcome, Georgians. Yeah, okay, good. Being Armenian, it is your obligation, it is your destiny to think bigger and think better. You have to start small, generally, but as you start small, as you conceive of that first idea, think through, am I thinking big enough? Am I solving only problems that are safe problems, or am I really positioning myself to solve the really big? Now, I hope that we get here. We may not. We're just about to hit profitability. On November 1st, we hit profitability after 6 years. It's a long journey. But even if we don't get quite this far, but nature that we have brought in and built a data collective of all kinds of different data, half of this far is still a multi-billion-dollar business for us, right? And so think through, yes, I've got to solve this little problem today, but am I structuring my data model correctly to be flexible? Am I getting more data than I need so that I can start, so when the time comes, there's this bigger problem that no one is yet solving, and I can solve that. If you do now, you have a chance. If you don't now, Microsoft will solve it, or Google will solve it, or ChatGPT, or OpenAI will solve it, or somebody will solve it with far, far, far more data, and you will not have a chance. The world is moving that way. And so this is the moment. This is the moment to make sure that you are future-proofed as an AI team, you're future-proofed as a startup. If you're solving this little thing, make sure that in your industry you understand what the big opportunity is and position yourself from a data collection perspective to get there. Thank you so much. Any questions? Albertson.
Thank you for such a great presentation. A quick question before the main question. Didn't you buy all their risks with the trade financing that you know there?
Yeah, so we take their risk, but because they've trusted us with their data, I mean, we're already, in what we do, we're 99.9% accurate. That's pretty amazing. It's really hard to do, but it's high. And so we will take that risk because we have understood the complexity of that data. If we didn't have that data, we'd never take that risk. But because today, wholesalers don't have this data. We have data that wholesalers don't have. That's another interesting question. As you build your startup, as you build your internal AI engine, what kind of data do you have that others don't have, and how can you leverage it?
And the main question, obviously, what you're saying, think big and collect the data that nobody has, right? That's what you're saying. Being small, and Puzl is small,
super small.
Yeah. Being small and positioning in that way, how hard it will be actually to collect that data. Because like what you're saying, like, hey, we're 400, we need 3,000 to do this, right? How long it will take? Wouldn't Microsoft or Google, wouldn't they do something that would take it before you get there?
Super great question. Great question. You have to provide real value upfront, right? And the advantage of being in a niche rather than in a broad open area or broad open industry is that niches have moats around them. You guys know the idea of a moat around a castle, the protection of the castle? The moat here is that the supermarket business is really complex. I often say it's a rocket science business run by guys who are not rocket scientists. Yeah, they're just good guys. There's Mr. Johnson and his granddaughter, and it's passed on from generation to generation, and they're nice people. They don't understand technology or data. And so if you can find a moat that is, if somebody wanted to build Puzl from scratch, it would take them at least 2, if not 3 years, because the supermarket industry is so huge, it's so complicated, right? And that's our moat. So we've got to move fast, provide real value, which we do today, on the existing problems that we solve. And we don't talk to this data cooperative idea, but we've got that in our back pocket. We're moving towards the notion that once we get to 1,000 stores, we're going to start to do one thing. Once we get to 2,000 or 3,000 stores, we'll do a totally different thing. And we will have the data that nobody knows that we have, because wholesalers can't get this kind of data. Only we can get this kind of data. Yeah, in the back. How to learn to think big. Whoa, what a good question. Highest of Elene. Yeah, you are Armenian. And here's the problem with Armenia, and here's the blessing of Armenia. Is Armenia small, and small nations tend to think small. The advantage of Armenians, though, is that we're a persecuted nation, right? And so we've had to be more shustri, more creative, and more jarpik than anybody else, yeah? And so use that to our advantage. Do you know that Russia is not run by Russians? Do you know that? It's true. Russia is run by Jews and Armenians, period. Like all the banks, all of the big industry, all run by either Jews or Armenians. And learning to think big is all about learning to ask better questions. And anybody can learn to ask better questions. So when you are thinking about your product and you think, okay, we're solving this, and how can we solve this really well? The next question would be, and so, or why? Like, why is it important that this problem gets solved? That will lead to another question, and you'll answer that question. That'll lead to another question. Why is it important that this problem gets solved? You know, the way Puzl started, it didn't start as a predictive platform for profitability. It started because I was at Volvo, and at Volvo, we had this robotics customer that was in supermarket robotics, and they could not figure out data structure. They were hardware people. And we did a really hard machine vision problem for them, actually a world first project that started with theoretical R&D and went into commercialized R&D. When we launched it, I said to the customer, I said, hey, there's so much more that we could do. Let's do it together. Let's go solve the really big problems in robotics. And they said, yeah, but we're just afraid of supermarket data. It's so messy, so bad. I don't know what to do with it. So right at that moment, I, being a Christian, God just said, hey, Matt, you know how to solve that problem. And I did. And so we built a team that was going to do AI as a service for robotics manufacturers. And then we thought, well, let's build robotics. Let's build robots. So we built our first robot. And we were about 2 months away from launch. And Walmart, who had been using robots, got out of robots. And the entire robotics market died. And we needed to reposition ourselves. And so we did this thing called design thinking. That's a whole other multi-day workshop, design thinking. But we did design thinking with our launch customer, who was a bunch of ex-Walmart guys. And we said, what is the problem that AI should be solving in grocery? And that's how we came up with this problem. And it took us 12 months to get to that answer, right? Just to understand what really should we be solving. It took us time. Big, hard questions, if they were easy to ask and easy to get answers for, well, everybody would have them, right? So you have to ask better questions, and you have to go step by step. If I'm solving this problem, why am I solving it? Oh, okay, because it creates this problem or solves this problem. Why is this problem important? Oh, because of this. Well, if it's this, then why is it that? Oh, and you see how that works. Another question, yes. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So we're starting in supermarkets, and then we'll go to retail, and then we'll go beyond. But interestingly, here's another way to think big. You can think big in your immediate kind of short to midterm strategy. So in the supermarket business, remember the original problem was data is really bad. We are small. We're not even $1 million in revenue yet, but we're already planning on building out new technology to replace the non-AI technology that everybody's using, which is 1990s era technology. So supermarkets have bad data because they run on terrible old technology. We want to build out that technology and give it away for free. Right now, people pay $2,000 a month per store for bad old technology. If we give it away for free and say, just pay us for AI, another way the whole market will switch over to us. So in a small problem, profit management in supermarkets, there are still ways to do big things before you even get to big stuff like this, right? Next question. Lady in the white.
Yeah, thank you for the great presentation. How did you get those big companies contact you to solve their problems? Because there are huge companies like McKinsey, which do the consultancy work, solve problems, right?
I've got a really good sales team in the US that's a bunch of ex-Microsoft guys. So one of the guys is ex-Microsoft Education. Another guy is ex-Microsoft for Mercedes-Benz. He was the head consultant for Microsoft for all of Mercedes-Benz. So it helps to have good salespeople. That's a good question. It's hard. If you have bad learning on salespeople, if they can't sell within 4 to 6 months, cut and move on. Cut and move on until you find somebody who can. Because it's hard. It's hard. Any other questions? We've got 5 minutes. Any other questions?
I have a question. Thank you. You told that you got they trust you and give you the data you for free, right?
So they give us they pay us $260 per store per month, and we double their profitability on the data that they give us.
So my question is why they trust you? What's the main core of that trust? Thank you.
Desperation. So the little guys, it's that the time window is closing. If you've got an AI idea, that the window before the big guys are solving every single problem is closing. The little guys in the supermarket business already know they don't know how to make money. And they are losing money hand over fist to Walmart or to the really big national players that have big data sets and amazing tech teams, right? They already know that. So all I need to do is say, hey, I speak to their problem. And say, hey, do you ever leave your office and not feel anxiety? Or are you going home every single night with anxiety because you don't know how to make money anymore? 100% of my customers say, oh my goodness, I live in constant stress. I say, if you would then trust me to do what I'm doing already for all these other people, I will double your profitability and you can get rid of your anxiety. You go, that's amazing. Let's go. Yeah. One last question. Yeah. Wait a second.
What AI softwares do you use?
We use a whole suite of lots of things. It's off-the-shelf algorithms that we then highly customize. We are in the process of moving cloud. Let me just recommend to you, choose your cloud wisely. We are AWS at the moment. The problem with AWS, it's a fine cloud. The problem with AWS is that Amazon got into the grocery business. And so we have customers that are saying, we will not work with you until you leave AWS because we don't want to give any money to Amazon. And switching clouds has been over a year in the process. So choose your cloud wisely and stick with it and go deep. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Շնորհակալություն Մեծ Բարտելսյանին։ Ուրեմն եմ հրավիրում մեր հաջորդ բանախոսին։ Եղագիր եւ ամերիկյան համալսարանի դասախոս Ruben Malayan։ Թեման ազգային խորհրդանիշ։
Սպասենք մի երկու րոպե, թող բոլորը տեղավորվեն ու սկսենք, հա։ Այս սովորություն է ուղղակի համալսարանից, որովհետև միջև տես չնստեմ, ես հասկանամ, իմաստ չունի, էլի ինչ որ բան սկսել, որովհետև սկսում ես